This is Short-Term Rental Management, the show that is all about short-term rental property management with your host, yours truly, Luke Carl. Short-term rental management, happy to be here. It's a great day for a great day. And long hair Luke, talking about prices and what is my rock bottom price? How low can I really go without getting into some trouble? So we'll be talking about that today and also how to figure out that number. And I'll introduce my co-hosts when we return after a word from this week's sponsor.
This episode of The Short Term Show is brought to you by The Short Term Shop. 30-year fixed mortgages, tax benefits, and long-distance management training made easy are just a few of the perks of owning a short-term rental. The Short Term Shop can help you buy and learn how to manage your property from anywhere in the world. Just go to theshorttermshop.com and click Get Connected. Again, that's theshorttermshop.com, and we are brokered by eXp. See y'all over there.
All right, here we go. Here we are. We're talking about short-term rental properties and managing them and rental real estate. And today I've got a good friend of mine, Mr. Tim, as my co-host. And Tim loves fast cars and motorcycles and all that good stuff. And how you doing, buddy?
And houses.
Houses.
Doing great. Thanks for having me again. It's always a pleasure to be here. We're hanging out here in Eastern Tennessee, doing a little bit of remodeling today. So we always love remodeling.
Oh, yeah. What are we working on?
We're actually building a garage. We'll call it a garage apartment addition. So,
and what are your rentals?
Yeah, it's at one of the rentals. It's upstairs. The came with a 2-story garage, and it was just empty. And we decided to finish off the upstairs. So
I say that, and I mean I know everything about it. I've been there.
Yeah,
and it's a pretty cool little project. You're going to move into it, yeah?
Yeah. This one we're actually moving into. So we're anybody that's followed us anytime, we've been living in an RV for the last 3 years. And we kind of went through a phase where we sold everything and bought a bunch of real estate with the money from our primary house. And then we've been living in an RV for 3 years. And we decided it's time to set a little bit of roots. So we're going to move into this for a while.
Love it. Well, today we're talking about pricing, sort of. Really, it's more of a management topic than anything, but I want folks to realize, there's a little bit more to know than just let's just take good pictures and put this thing up on Airbnb and Vrbo. And I want to break it down today and talk about a topic that I'm pretty passionate about, which is asses in the seats, for lack of a better way to put it. But really, even narrow that down even more into to what can I charge for this thing? In other words, what's my break-even number? That's what I want to know. What's my break-even number on this property over a 12-month period? That's where it starts to get complicated because, different size properties are going to have different occupancy rates and number of years booked, a number of nights booked for the year and things like that. But let's just take like a 2-bedroom meat and potatoes rental, like you're in the Smokies. So we'll go with that, even though it's a low-hanging fruit. But hey, everybody loves the Smokies, number one vacation rental market in America, and probably the world, really. But, let's take a 2-bedroom. These things is one thing we should note there. Anything under 2 bedrooms or under is pretty much always booked anyway. You're going to have some lulls in your calendar. Like, September is going to be a little slow. February will be a little slow. But these little guys are easy to book. But let's just take that for an example as far as, maybe how do we figure out what our bottom dollar average nightly rate is? And there are going to be some flaws in this, quote unquote method, if you want to call it that, or system, if you will. Because you got high nights and you got low nights. July is going to be super high. May is going to be pretty damn low. So it's going to be different all year round, which is kind of a little bit of a head trip that short term does to you. But what I want to get at here is let's figure out what our break even number is over the course of an average occupancy for whatever size property we're talking about. So back to the 2-bedroom in the Smokies. I don't know. Let's go with, what do you say? Like 80%, I think, would maybe even be on the low end on occupancy.
Yeah. 80% occupancy for the year. That'd be conservative.
And I like to be conservative when I'm doing math. I really think in a lot of cases, you might even get to 90 on a 2-bedroom. But if you're doing as far as underwriting purposes are concerned, I think that, I think 80 is a number you can be very comfortable with. And if you're paying any attention at all, I think we can hit that. So what I do there is I just do 365 times 0.8, which hits us at 292 nights a year. Okay. So then, and again, I'm not going to do exact math today. You got to figure out your own math. You're going to need to know what your PITIR is, and you're going to need to know what your expenses are and things like that. And those are easy to figure out. Let's say you're brand new, don't know anything about anything. Honestly, your expenses, in my opinion, are going to be pretty damn similar to the house you live in. And if you're living in a house that's bigger than 2 bedrooms, you can probably guess that your expenses might be a little lower. And your property taxes, even though they're going up, quote unquote, 60%, we've heard rumors in the Smokies, they're still going to be lower than any other damn state in the country, So figure out that math, and you just do more math. It's really all it is. People overthink it. You figure out what your monthly number is, and then you say, okay, I got to take that number times 12. Let's just pick, I don't know, can we pick a random number there that makes, I guess, a little bit of sense on a monthly PITI or a monthly nut on a 2-bedroom in the Smokies? Do you have any? I don't really even have a frame of reference there. I'd have to look at my spreadsheets. You have something? I hate to give numbers.
I mean, somewhere $4,000 or whatever. I mean,
okay.
4 or 5. So, I mean,
is that we feel that's fairly conservative, or 4,500 would be conservative?
I mean, it varies so much on what down payments and interest rates and what you paid for it and all that kind of
stuff. Let's just say if you were in a situation where your monthly nut is $4,000 and it might have been $6,000, who knows? But let's just go with $4,000, and then that puts you. So really, all you do there is take $4,000 times 12. That's $48,000. So let's just call it $50,000. And then what you do is you figure out, basically take, Tim, if I'm doing this right, $50,000 divided by $292.
That's it.
Pretty much it, right? Let's do that. Divided by $292, $171 a night. Okay. So that's my average break-even number for a 12-month period at 80% occupancy on this 2-bedroom that we made up the numbers on. All right. We're not here to give numbers. Your job is the numbers. You are a real estate investor. You need to know how to run your numbers. Your numbers are different than my numbers. A doctor making $600,000 a year that has no time on his hands is going to have a different number than somebody who's trying to get out of a $60,000 a year W-2. Okay.
Absolutely.
So $171. Now, keep in mind, there are going to be many, many, many nights you might be well over $300-$400 on this thing. You're probably looking at, I don't know, we're just, again, making numbers up here. You're probably looking at least double, if not triple that for a Christmas, for a 4th of July, for a Thanksgiving, for the entire month of July,
And conversely, I mean, we said this already, but this is just like a frame of mind. That's not your bottom number you're ever going to throw out there. I mean, there's plenty of times where I go below that number. So.
Again, that's my point. So if 171 is my average, for the whole year over the course of 292 nights, then I mean, how low can I go? I feel like I can probably go to 100 pretty comfortably. Do I want to go to 100 on a 2-bedroom in the Smokies? Not really. I think that's probably that's getting to be in the riffraff zone. That's going to be getting like to the You're probably borderline people doing things in your property that you don't want them to do at that point. You got to decide what's going to work for you. My thing is asses in the seats. I feel like I probably wouldn't have to go that low on this particular property to go ahead and get booked, even for slow nights. But
120 on our 2-bedroom is getting pretty low for me, quite frankly, which fits right into this just fine. We have a 2-bedroom. Honestly, usually my men set it like 140, but it gets overridden sometimes, depending on what month and what time of year it is. So, but I've never gotten down to 100, I don't think. But I've definitely gone down to 120.
Yeah, I'll go down to 120. It's especially in May, September,
right.
Early November. most of January and February. These are our slow times. These are what people freak out about. They get in there and go slow. It's slow. I'm not getting any bookings. Well, your prices are too high because you ran the numbers at this thing for, an average nightly rate. And then you're too afraid to go lower than that. And you got to get over that. Put the asses in the seats. That's my opinion. Get the juices flowing on this property. Figure out, okay, 171 is my number, but I can dip lower than that if I need to. And again, I'll make up for it later. If I can get my juices flowing now at 140 on this property, maybe in 2 months from now, because I got it going, then next thing you know, boom, all of a sudden it's like, double or triple, because it's a more popular time of year. And I did my damnedest to get my algorithms flowing when it was dead season or May or September, and get the asses in the seats, right? This episode of the Short Term Management Show is brought to you by Short Term Rental, Long Term Wealth. This is the book in the STR space, written by my lovely wife, Avery Carl. It has hundreds of reviews on Amazon, and it will teach you literally everything you need to know about STR. Short-term rental, long-term wealth, the book, wherever books are sold.
That's right.
Yeah.
No, and you mentioned riffraff. That's something that's everybody talks about that. How low can you go? And there's probably no exact. I think that varies by season too. And I'm going to shift to the beach. If I put my beach property, these are 1-bedroom condos in Gulf Shores. If I put that at $79 a night during July, I'm getting riffraff for sure. But $79 a night for a snowbird in the middle of January, you're not getting riffraff at that. You're getting actually a pretty good guest, So it just it kind of depends on you got to know your market and know the seasons a little bit and understand who's going there, know the customer and who's going to that region and what are they, it's all about supply and demand, so when in this middle of summer, when there is no supply, there's a crap ton of demand and that's when your prices are higher. So
Yeah, I agree. Riffraff in a slow month is completely different than riffraff in a busy month, so you got to be careful with that. And why do you think that is? I mean, it's a desirable time of year. I screwed up and my price was too low, and I got the worst option out there. Is there some psychology involved there?
I think there's some psychology. I mean, it's like, again, during the slow time of year, it's slow for a reason. It's slow because that's not a popular time to go on vacation necessarily. And like I said, at the beach, in the winter, that's going to be people that are getting away from the north. That's your snowbirds that are going down there for the most part. But I mean, when kids are going back to school, in the slow season, you're going to have more like if people are coming, they are shopping for a deal a little bit, but they might have planned hey, if I want to go to the Smokies and I can't afford it, I need to plan around going in a slower season. And it doesn't mean they're riffraff. That just means that they're going when they can afford it. Where if you have super cheap prices when it's super busy, you are getting more of a bottom of the barrel of the guests that are coming. So
I'm going to make an analogy. It's like a concert. You go to the Metallica concert, the front section is $1,000 and the nosebleeds are $200. And for some reason, somehow the $200 guy found a ticket in the front row. And he's surrounded by all these other people. Right. And then, there's an analogy in there somewhere. You get my point.
You might have gone to the Metallica cover band and he's front row.
There you go. Yeah, cover band. It's like on Caddyshack. Well, there's a pool and there's a pond. The pond would be better for you. Oh, cool. Yeah. So, but yeah, do some math. Figure out what that number is. It's as simple as that. I think a lot of people get totally carried away with. I can't go too low. And the reason I even called this call today is because I feel like people are. Sometimes I feel like I'm trying to talk people into something they don't want to do, and I hate that. But I'm doing my job over here. Again, you have long-term rentals. You know how it is. If the damn house isn't rented, you got no choice.
That's where I'm going next. I mean, $110 a night is a lot more than zero. And sometimes it sucks. This January, I lost money in January, but for the year, I don't lose money. You can't look at short-term rentals as a steady thing, like long-term rentals. Long-term rental, what you're getting every month, what you're getting every month. But short-term, if you gotta pay some bills, my January didn't cover all my bills, but it covered most of them, and but the other months more than make up for that, So but yeah, you don't want to be at zero, that's for sure.
You got two choices. You either fix up the property and bring it up to where it's going to rent for what you're trying to get for it, or add another bedroom and rent for what it's trying to get. Perfect example. My biggest property that I have in the Smokies, it's a large property. It has more square feet than it does bedrooms. Usually these short terms are the other way around, where they just cram them full of bedrooms and there's no living space. This particular house, you've been there, it's the opposite. It's got a lot of living space, two big giant family rooms, living room, and very, it's only 4 bedrooms. And so I said, you know what, I gotta get more people in this thing. Normally I don't do that. I like to go pretty low on my occupancy, but in this case I was too low, I think. And I looked around and I said, it was May and it was not booked. And I was like, man, I'm only doing 10 people on this thing. It's 3,000 square foot. Let's figure it out. I ended up getting a bunk bed, which I don't like bunk beds, but it was my best option on this particular property because it is a little light on number of bedrooms for how many square feet. So you got 2 options. You can figure out how to put more heads in beds, and or rehab the property to bring it up to a little bit more per night, or you lower your price. Really, is pretty much all it is. Same thing in long-term rental. You and I both learned this from long-term rental. You look up, and next thing you know, this house has been empty for 3 months because you're sitting there saying, this house is worth $1,500 a month. And the market is saying, no, it's not. And you're proud and you're stubborn. And you're sitting there saying, I'm not going to rent this thing for $1 under $1,500, $1,499. This is what it's worth. And next thing you know, again, 3 months have gone by. That's $4,500 down the crapper. And it's because of your pride, and you could have rented that thing. And again, with long-term rentals, same thing there. Time of year, you're trying to rent a long-term rental in early December. Good luck. You're going to have to drop the price. I mean, $200, $300, depending on the property, more if it's a big, nice property in a good school district. If that property was for rent in April,
there's nothing worse than a tenant moving out at a bad time of year, because then you're stuck. You're still on a long-term rental. You're stuck for a year sometimes, or more.
Yep. So, yep. And then let's say they stay in there for 5 years. Of course, you can always renew at a higher rate and things like that. But that was what it was for me. It hit me like a bolt of lightning. Man, this house has been empty for 3 months. It's costing me $1,500 every month. It's not the house's fault. It's not. It's the market is not. It's my fault for picking that price. Okay. And again, let's talk about this. I don't want everybody to think we're sitting here trying to beat this lower your rates, lower your prices, lower your rates thing. It's not about. We don't want it to be a race to the bottom. I don't want it to be a race to the bottom. You need to be getting the best guests you can, and getting the best prices you can, and quite frankly, providing awesome things for the entire economy as a whole.
Yeah, you touched on something there. I mean, you want to provide the best value. You talked about fixing them up, adding more, heads and beds or whatever, but you want to provide the best value you can for your guest. And the more you do that, the more you're going to have better bookings. And in this, one of the ways to get that, sometimes you got to get people in there to see how good you do, to get the reviews as well. I mean, we kind of touched on that, but the reviews are a big part of this. If you got nobody coming in, you're getting no reviews either, and when you get, cheaper than what you want bookings, that's not a time to let up on your level of service. It's a time to actually really show off and say, this is like a killer place and we do a great job and we're awesome hosts, so you want to make sure you're providing a good value to people and a good service, even in the off months. So
let's do one more random scenario, maybe a bigger house here. We're going to make numbers up, folks. We're making these numbers up. Let's say this is a 5-bedroom on the beach. And we're going to do another scenario to make sure you know how to run these numbers. Just another example, right? So this house is not going to have as high as occupancy. You got to keep that in mind. How do we figure out the occupancy? That's your job. AirDNA, Rabu, there's a million of them. Go look at them, pay for the subscriptions. Once you buy the house, cancel the subscription if you don't need it anymore. Do whatever you got to do to figure out these numbers. Me, it's all enemy method. I like enemy method. I like real hard data as much as I can get of it. Obviously, if your enemy's kicking ass, it's sometimes hard to figure out what they're doing. But just poke around, figure out what you think maybe your occupancy is going to be. Let's go with, I don't know, 65% on this random house that we're talking about right now. So we've decided we're pretty comfortable being uncomfortable, having no clue what we're doing here, that this house is going to be ended up 65% occupancy. So again, 365, this is how I do it in my brain, 365 times 0.65, that puts me at 237 nights. Okay. Let's say my monthly nut on this house is $66,000. I made that number up. It's a completely, it's a fictional number. Okay. So we take $6,000. That's 1 month times how many months?
12
months. We got $72,000 is our nut on this property. So we need to divide that by 237 nights, which is 65% of a year. This property we're talking about right now, again, it is a fictional property from wherever, and it is right at $300, $303.79 per month is my break-even number over the course of an entire year.
Per night, not per month.
Not per month. Not per month, not per night. It's over the course of a hypothetical year. Sit down, do a little math, figure out what that number is. We'll call it our break-even number. We need to figure out what's my break-even number on this property. If you don't know what that is, go figure it out. You'll be a better manager because of it. Anything else we need to add today on short-term rental management, Tim?
No, I mean, this one's pretty cut and dry. I mean, this is it's a pretty simple formula. You take your occupancy as a percentage times the 365 days in the year, and then you take your your total, your monthly nut, and take that times 12 and do the math.
Absolutely.
And it's pretty simple. And
simple.
And like Luke said, this is just a number you need to know. It doesn't, that's not necessarily where you're setting your price. It's just a number. You need to know that number. And it's a number everybody that owns any property really should know. I mean, because Luke and I know these numbers for our long-term rentals too. And and there's going to be times when you're looking at it going, I'm already there and it's not booked. And then you got to go, am I going to go lower? Or what am I going to do? And again, I'm not a race to the bottom guy either. And I'm either going to usually do one of two things. I'm going to pull the plug and start doing some rehab while I'm slow, or I'm putting people in there. And, this year we're really putting people in. And so again, it's a good time to build reviews, good time. You'll be surprised how many times, like when you just get people going, sometimes when you just rattle your prices around like that, all of a sudden you start getting bookings, like, just by going and messing with your prices. Sometimes, yeah, that's my favorite word, tickle your prices. But you get in there and tickle it, and you lower to this, and you cringe and stuff, and all of a sudden you're raising it back up before you know it, because once the bookings kind of start flowing in, it just kind of works that way sometimes.
Let me put it another way. I see this fairly often, and what it is somebody says, or we have a Facebook group for this, strlistingadvice.com, short-term rental listing advice on Facebook. Sometimes people will post in there and they'll say, I'm not getting any bookings, and I'll go look at their calendar, and I'm like, dude, you're in the next 4 weeks is completely empty, and you're at $375 a night. And so you do the math, right? And let's assume this is a pretty slow month. I made that number up, but let's do 300. Let's say get the full occupancy, $375 times 30 nights. Do you really need $11,250 to keep this boat afloat? Because if you do, and you're not getting any bookings, that's a problem. So let's recalculate our math, get a little more realistic. If my monthly net is only $4,000, do I really need $11,250? I mean, come on. So you're getting a little greedy here. And a lot of times you just don't, especially with a noob, they don't even know they're doing it. It's like, wow, Luke, I never even took that number that you're talking about and multiplied it over the course of a month. That is crazy. That's like 3 months nut in 1 month. I don't need to cover that much. What I need to do is get some damn bookings, All right. Well, listen, on behalf of Short-Term Rental Management, we love you. Tim, great to see you as always. We are in a review world, so please hit us with a quick 5-star for the podcast wherever you are listening, and you will get some great karma in your direction, and by way of fantastic guests leaving great reviews for your property. We love you, and don't overthink it.